And welcome to
America's Mayor Live with America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. A great live audience, but as always, be a part of the conversation. Join the chat all hour. It flies by, but get your comments in now. The mayor can now see the comments throughout the show, so I can no longer
dangerous. I can see the comments.
I'm no longer the middleman. You can get directly to the mayor and
Comments like, "Hey, jerk!
me.
What are you talking about, jerk?"
So we'll put the call-in number up shortly. But Mayor,
I have my list for the wackos of psychiatrists in various parts of the country to help you. So if you call in with a wacky remark, I'll make referrals. Okay. And there are good psychiatrists. I mean, they're more than happy to. Now, most of them don't take insurance, though. So I don't know how you're going to deal with that, but you're going to have to figure it out. But they do have, they will give you some discount deals on Trump derangement syndrome. They put you like at, what did they do last time after? They put you like in a quiet room.
a safe space, Mayor. Are you familiar with what a safe space is? Did they have safe spaces when you were in school?
Oh, yeah, sure. Every election, all the kids were put in safe spaces. I went to Catholic schools. You know, Eisenhower got elected. They put us all in safe spaces. And then Kennedy was elected. We were all in safe spaces. You know, we were a bunch of little wackos. Of course, we wouldn't put. If I started crying over a presidential election, the crying would have been very significant after the nun got finished with it. Or the brother. You're crying over a presidential election, you wimp. You want to grow up to be a man? So stop crying. So let's begin, of course, with the tragedy of yesterday, which is the shooting in Nashville. Ted and I, as you know, if you follow the show, were in Nashville 3 weeks ago, right, Ted?
That's right. We've been in Nashville twice over the last month.
And we spent about 4 or 5 days there and really got to know it pretty well. It wasn't like just a one day excursion. And I've been in Nashville quite a bit. My stepdaughter went to Vanderbilt, and I visited her there often. Like Nashville a lot. It is true. It's become a much more dangerous city from the time I first got used to it. But that's no different than any other part of Democrat America. I mean, you look at a Democrat city, you look at a Democrat mayor, you look at a district attorney, very often funded by Soros to let criminals go free. And we got about 17 of them that in the last 2 years have set records for the most homicides in the history of the city. For example, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, St. Louis, Missouri. I mean, these are great cities, right? Long histories, and all of a sudden they have more murders than ever before. How about in New York? You would say, oh, in New York, the one that set the record must have been New York City. Rochester. Rochester, New York is more dangerous than New York City. Now that's strange. And New York City is not doing too well. But it's doing a lot better than the cities that I just mentioned, which means we have a national problem. It's an agenda which fits in with the other things they're doing. But the agenda on crime is to create chaos. And it's to create chaos so that we will become discouraged with our government, and we'll want to have a more socialist, a more communist form of government, which we're headed for. And we're going to want to do away with American nationalism, which Soros hates, despises, and wants us to be part of one world, to be run by him, I guess, Klaus Schwab, Obama, and America sort of disappears. We just become another country. Of course, the dominant country in that scenario, if things keep moving the way they're moving for the next decade, will be China. They already have the biggest navy. They'll have the biggest army. And they'll have the most allies and support. So that's where we're going with Biden. You wonder, well, why would he do that? Well, I could give you 31 million reasons, actually 31.5 million reasons. It's called money. I learned a long, long time ago when I became an investigator, a federal prosecutor, one of my great old New York City detectives taught me, follow the money. And I can follow half of the bribe money for 30 years into Joe Biden's bank account. And I don't believe in coincidences, and I don't believe that a president gives away an airbase 400 miles from China, closes it down, gets nothing for it, and he happened to have gotten $31 million from that country. It is totally indefensible, completely unexplainable why any loyal American would give up that airbase 400 miles from China, when if we do, God forbid, have a war with them, it'll be a war with missiles and your proximity to your target. That's how Ronald Reagan helped to win the Cold War. He deployed cruise missiles in European cities, headed right for Russian cities, and cut down the travel time by, well, he cut it down from an hour and a half to something like 30 minutes. So we got a lot of problems with Biden, and we'll get back to that in a moment. But let's take a look at what happened in Nashville, and let's take a look at the reaction to it, the disgraceful reaction of our degenerate and mentally deficient president. And you'll see why I say that in a minute when I play these little recordings. So we had 6 people killed, 3 9-year-old children, and then 3 adults who all work at the school. I think it was haphazard that they were the ones that were killed. I don't see any suggestion that they were the main targets. Let's say their names and take a brief pause and do what the President of the United States should have done yesterday when he came out, rather than tell inane jokes about ice cream. Evelyn, these are the 3 children: Evelyn Dykhouse, Haley Scruggs, and William Kinney. They were the 3 9-year-old children. And the adults were Cynthia Peakage, 61. She was an auxiliary teacher. Catherine Kuntz was the headmistress of the school since 2016 and quite an accomplished educator. And Mike Hill was a very beloved custodian at the school, 61 years old. They were all killed and either died immediately or died on the way to the hospital. So let's take a moment and let's, in our own way, pray to God and use our own religion for this, which apparently you'll find out Americans don't think very much of anymore, but we do. So we're going to pray to God for the repose of their soul, and we're going to pray to God and ask God to give the people we'll give the people of the school, of the Covenant School, but also the entire community, and I think all Americans, peace. I mean, this affected all of America. So let's just take a moment and ask God for his help. Thank you. So I guess we look at the other side of it now. What was done right here? The police. This call came in at 10:13. She or he or it was dead by 10:37. So what's that? That's 14 minutes. Now, I know response times, and I used to memorize them for the NYPD and the fire department. Response time is a difference between life and death. You know, if the police can get there quickly, people are going to live. If the police and the fire department get there late, people die. They got there quickly, and this was not the ambiguity we've seen in one other place. Remember, we saw it only in one other place. What I saw is the NYPD. What I mean, we couldn't have done any better. And you know that I believe the NYPD is the best police department in the world. They came in, they didn't waste a moment. There was no hesitation. They walked right into the fire. One after another, they weren't worried about who was first, the first one being the one most likely to be killed. And within a very short period of time, they killed this murderer who had 2 rifles and a handgun. And the police chief says that he, I think, recently, Hale, that's her name, Audrey Hale, has a different name as a male, also Hale. But recently it says here, and who knows how accurate it is, that she's been identifying as a he on social media. I don't know, I obviously don't know the complete pathology of all of this, but we don't have to really get into a debate about whether transgender is a mental illness, a mental disorder, or its associated uh, effects lead to mental disorders, because she did have a mental disorder and was being treated by a psychiatrist. So we have someone who had at least a mental disorder, possibly a mental illness, who did this shooting. Well, you say, well, how did this person get a gun or guns? I think she had 7, because that isn't registered anywhere. She was never arrested for a crime, and she was never legally processed in any way as being mentally disabled. So so when she showed up to get a gun, and you go back to the list of people that are not entitled to a gun, you're not going to find her name there. That's a much bigger and more difficult problem than the left wing propagandist will tell you about guns. It's not easy to solve, and if you think about it for a minute, you'll see why. But the parents did say that they were concerned about her, and they thought she had gotten rid of all of her guns. So once again, there are questions there about the parents. Why weren't they? She lived with them. Why weren't they? If they were worried, why weren't they more certain about that? And there were 7. I don't know how big a house they have, but I know if I had 7 guns in my house, my mother used to go into my drawers. I mean, my drawers. Not. Well, who knows? I don't know. My mother would. I used to get annoyed, when they would do that. My mother and father, and they said, as long as you live here, you have no privacy. My father, by the way, was a skilled boxer who actually sparred a few times with Sugar Ray Robinson. So when he said, "Here you don't have any privacy," I didn't fight with him. I knew one little touch, I would go down, and he never hit me. All he had to do is look at me, and I said, "Yes, Dad." "No, Dad." So this school seems like a beautiful school. It's called the Covenant Christian School. We have different numbers for the number of students. 209 is the one in this article, 50 staff, but I've also seen 60 staff and 230 students. And Audrey Hale is said to have been a student there, but there are no details about when. So she was 27, so it would have to have been a while ago, because the school goes up to the 6th grade. Well, one of the things said right after the shooting by a knee-jerk liberal was, it's not going to do any good if you have armed guards in the school. Now, I take some offense to that, because first thing I did when I became mayor of New York City in 1994, I put armed guards in every school. Teachers union said I couldn't do it. They were in charge of the schools. I said, well, you're in charge, unfortunately, the educational program. I wish you weren't, because you're a bunch of communists. But I'm in charge of the physical safety of the entire city. They said, well, we won't let the police in. I said, okay, don't let them in. They're coming in anyway. We're going to have a shootout with the police, with teachers. So they went into every single school. Now, this liberal woman who was on Fox said this will traumatize the children to have police with guns in the school. Well, that's kind of ridiculous. They live in a traumatized world. There are police with guns hopefully patrolling the streets. If we're in bad neighborhoods, their friends are getting murdered. And the police are going to traumatize them. And plus, they've got to grow up quickly and understand the dangers they face. And maybe they'll grow up a different generation than the generation that seems to be content that you can put them all out on the street and they can just kill people. And then the woman went on to illustrate liberal stupidity, ignorance, naivete. She said, they don't do any good anyway. The armed guards. Oh, this very case has the contradiction to it. In her notes, we see that she was considering 2 schools to attack. She picked this school because they had less security. So there. You want proof that security works? Kids in those schools, 100% of the kids in that school are alive. 3 kids are dead in this school and 3 staff, because when compared to the other school, it had less security. So don't tell me security doesn't work. And it's about time that we have armed guards in the schools until this wave is over.
Mayor, can you talk about, you've seen some of the body cam footage from the incident.
Do we have it on?
We have it on. We can play some, of course. We want to warn people. Some may find it a little bit, well, not a little bit. Some may find this footage disturbing. We do have it if we want to show some of it. And would you like to talk about their response?
I don't know if they're seeing it. I mean,
let's show them.
First of all, I want you to notice this is the police moving ahead without any fear or I mean, they're not even taking the precautions that that they're trained to take. I mean, they want to get this killer as fast as possible because they know that he or she is there to take out a lot of kids. And I don't know if they even knew the body count at this point, but they know the simple equation: the longer she has, the more children will be dead at the end of it, or adults. Faster they can put a bullet in her, the faster they save lives. And of course, they do warn her first, and she doesn't take the warning. She points at them, and they properly blow her away and save who knows how many lives. As I said, the police chief said she had a substantial amount of ammunition left. Obviously, she was there to use it. And having killed 6 people in a relatively short period of time, you would say she knew what she was doing. Notice, I just want you to watch how they're moving forward. You know, you've watched movies of this, and they move forwards more slowly with the gun out. They look around. They're not taking the precautions that you normally would take. And I know why, because they made sure this was done quick. They wanted this woman incapacitated, or man, as quickly as possible.
Again, some may find this footage disturbing. We want to put that warning out there.
Well, if you do, get ready for a Democrat America, because this is what you live in. I mean, in Chicago last weekend, there were 20 of these just on the weekend. And this is what your police officers that get attacked by the Democrats have to go through. Any one of these men could be killed right around the corner. She could be and blow them away before they get a chance to get a shot off. They have no idea what's around that corner. There, right now, they're going to she could be right there, right behind that wall. Boom.
And they don't hesitate. They keep moving.
Well, that's the point that I'm making. Notice they're not slowing down and looking first. They may actually get kind of disciplined for this, although I think the chief will be very proud of them. I think I hear shots. Well, somebody now is shooting at her.
That might be her shooting.
Oh, is that her? No, I think he got 2 shots off.
Okay. And there she is.
Yeah, man, wow. I think she's down already. Should be the camera is blocking her body, but it's right down there. There it is. I think she's probably gone already. It was that volley, the two volleys of shot that put her down.
Now, this is another angle, and you'll notice, Mayor, how the officers are moving, pushing forward. They're not stopping, and at no point do they hesitate. They keep going through doors, finding the open one, and moving forward.
They did an excellent job, and
no helmets. They're not even totally.
No, they don't have helmets on. Absolutely right. So they're not protecting their heads.
These guys responded with whatever they had and went in.
Some of them just have regular body armor on, nothing particularly. And of course, what they realize is this took 13 minutes from the time they got the call to the time they got there. Looks like it took about 4 minutes while they were there. The longer that it takes, the more of a chance she's going to find somebody up here hiding somewhere and kill them. So the faster you incapacitate her, the more alive
she could be in any of those doors. She could be on the other side of any of those.
I just want you to notice how he opened that door without concern for his own safety.
They heard the shots from coming up from upstairs.
If I were the chief, I'd give all these guys a medal. Yeah. How about the commanding officer saying, go, go, go? And he's going with them. He's not like, this guy's a captain, by the way. The guy right here is a captain. I don't know if you see that on his back. That's a high-ranking police officer. Well, so let's put this down now so we can take up. Wait, you want to see the end?
Yeah. This is where they take her down.
Well, I think she's behind this door in the corner. See, he's it. Oh, wow. I don't even know. We'll have to find out who hit her because that first guy might have got, I think the first guy might have got her. I mean, she's on the floor right there. Might be the first guy who got her. Suspect down, suspect dead. Suspect's not moving. I think it was the first, it looks like it was the first couple of shots to put her down. Right. Well, God bless them, huh? God bless the police officers for ending it. And a shame that it had to happen at all. And what observations can we have on it right now? We don't know really the motive. The police chief speculated that she might have had problems with the school, residual problems with the school. When asked if it had to do with her being transgender, he didn't dismiss it. He said it has to be looked into. That was a hell of a brave answer in this atmosphere where they're going to probably crucify the poor guy for saying that. I mean, he's supposed to say it has nothing to do with her being transgender. Well, how the hell will he know that? Of course, he doesn't know it, and he's being honest. And he would have to be conducting a corrupt investigation if that's not one of the possibilities, or that was the nature of the emotional disorder for which he was being treated by the psychiatrist. So you say, well, why wasn't she reported? So she went, and I believe, and again, these facts may change when they do more investigating, but they believe that all 7 guns were legally purchased. So she went in, she bought them. The gun dealer checked the registry, found no arrests, no history of mental illness, no history of drugs, no history of alcoholism, unlike Hunter Biden, who lied about being a drug addict. She didn't lie, apparently. I mean, she's never been diagnosed with mental illness. I don't know if she knows she had mental illness. People that have it sometimes deny it, sometimes affirm it. So here's the problem. Let's say, and now we're really speculating, but let's say her psychiatrist or psychologist was aware of her violent tendencies. You would say, well, should the psychiatrist report her? Well, and the knee-jerk answer would be, of course. But now think about this. If psychiatrists do that, and they do it knee-jerk like that, how many people are going to go to psychiatrists who have issues like this? And how many people are prevented because of treatment or intervention. Now, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how effective treatment is in this situation. I do know, and you know, just from your experience, that people say a lot of things they don't do. I mean, you examine your own conscience and mind, and did you ever say you were going to kill somebody? I'd like to see somebody dead, and didn't mean it. Or are there people who say that on a momentary basis, but never are going to carry it out? Now, if all those people are reported, first of all, the police end up with a needle in a haystack problem. And second, it discourages people who begin to have these feelings to disclose it. So this has to be very carefully thought out as to how you do this. And psychiatry has to come up with a tighter, better, easier to understand definition of when you go over the line. Now, a little different for the parents. The parents say she shouldn't have had guns, and they thought she gave them in. Now, they are in a better position to sort of police this than the psychiatrist, who's got to worry, does he or she have enough information to really go forward? Is he screwing up a kid who's just talking like that, of which there are many, or is he really turning in a dangerous one? And if you turn in too many that are just talking that way, you're never going to hear from the dangerous ones. Parents don't have that problem. They just have one or two kids. And they did already come to the conclusion she shouldn't have a gun. And it would seem to me and I hate to say this because I'm sure they're suffering, but we need to focus on these things to solve them in the future. They probably should have done a better job of finding those 7 guns, unless we find that she had them hidden somewhere, not in the home. So it's a little early, but that's what we've got to look at. Now, of course, the liberals have the answer. Gun control. What do we say? This woman is mentally ill? And the other people who do things like this are criminals? What do criminals and mentally ill people not do? They don't follow rules. They don't follow laws. Or one might put it a different way. They're not subject to controls. Just by virtue of the definition of gun control, they're not controllable. A criminal who's going to do murder, or a mentally ill person who's going to do murder, is pretty seriously gone. And they hardly are going to go register guns. And when you're in a country that has 300 million plus guns, you can do all the gun control you want. You're just fooling yourself. You're controlling the behavior of lawful people. Now, does it do some good for suicides? Does it do some good for accidental killings? Probably, or maybe not. I'm not an expert on that. I'm an expert on crime. So I brought down crime more than any mayor in the history of this country under terrible circumstances. And I can tell you, gun control had nothing to do with it. I took a city with 22,000 murders, and I handed over to Mike Bloomberg with 500. And he took it down to 300. And I never recall doing anything significant with gun control, except I did enforce the laws. A lot of these laws are not enforced. But I never thought that gun control was going to reduce. I mean, the mafia doesn't go register their guns, nor do insane people, right? They don't go register their guns. So the answer here, and then of course, you got to get into the object that's used and the person. Even if you think gun control can do a certain amount of good, the more significant factor here is the behavior of the person who has the gun, or the behavior of the person driving the automobile. An automobile is a deadly instrumentality also. It kills almost as many people as guns, sometimes more. But the automobile doesn't kill the people. The automobile's driving by right now and they're not killing anybody. The person driving the automobile kills people on purpose, accidentally, because of alcohol. The same thing is true with a gun. It's the person operating the gun. And I'll tell you why liberals do this, because they don't want to hold anybody criminally responsible. They don't want to hold people accountable for their behavior. When this theory of non-accountability, which comes along with Marxism, first developed in the 19th century, the great columnist Fyodor Dostoevsky said, when you blame a crime on the environment, meaning he's very poor, nobody has a job, everybody is hungry, then there'll never be any criminals, there'll never be any crime, because it'll all be excusable. You've got to hold people accountable for their actions. The gun doesn't get up and shoot at people. Somebody picks it up, aims it, and shoots it, unless you're Alec Baldwin and it goes off by miracle, kind of like a virgin birth. Alan Baldwin, the virgin birth? Nah, wrong analogy. So I hope we get past all the hand-wringing and craziness of the liberals, who, after all, are the cause of most of the crime anyway. The cities in which this is taking place are all left-wing, Democrat cities. The mayor of this city is not being allowed to run for re-election because he's such a lousy mayor and has caused so much crime there. We were just in Nashville, and the people in Nashville said he didn't even attempt to run for re-election because he would run out of town.
That's right. The mayor of Nashville, Mr. Cooper, he dropped out. He didn't want to run for re-election. He was getting criticized so much.
He made a rather stupid statement about gun control, right?
It was so disappointing to hear.
Was it as stupid as the president?
Oh my goodness, the president! That was one of the most bizarre. That was just bizarre.
No, it wasn't bizarre. It was the act of a man with dementia. So you remember when George Bush was criticized for not reacting to September 11th fast enough because he was talking to the children, and of course he shouldn't, because he actually didn't know really what happened originally.
That was a good response. He didn't want to frighten everybody. I mean,
he's
on live TV.
Everybody. Well, this guy is told about it, and I'm going to tell you why I think he got pretty not hard to confuse him, but I'm going to tell you why he got confused. He didn't know what to do about this because he probably was told, and it probably did register with him, that the shooter was transgender. So they're going to do everything they can to cover that up. I mean, I read the Times today. It was on paragraph 28. I'd swear they made it even in smaller print than the other print. I'm surprised they actually got it in. Did the Washington Post even have it? You checked out the Washington Post.
It was buried quite far down in the story. And yeah, definitely up front.
We're having this big debate in America over transgender, right? We're having this big debate about
biggest thing you see
hormones for kids, mutilation surgery for kids, parents who don't go along with it are terrorists. And now we have a shooting by a transgender person and we hide it. Imagine if it was a white supremacist. Imagine if the guy had one single white supremacist post literature. Yeah. You think it would be on paragraph 28? No, we'd be hearing about it for the next 6 weeks. Or it's like the guy at Christmas time who got out and just went to the Christmas crowd and killed all these people. And at first they were hoping it was a white supremacist. Turned out to be a guy that hates white people. Just the opposite. But you didn't hear much about that, right? He went off to jail. He got a sentence and it was on page 50.
Yeah, he's probably out now.
I don't know if he's out. I don't know if he's out, but he's, he certainly did not get the attention that lots of other people get in that situation. So I want you to, I don't know why I do this. I just get myself upset and annoyed and about this when I do this, but I want to get to that. I want to get to the president here. And the cut.
Thanks for joining us, America's Mayor Live. Visit
Right here.
rudygiulianics.com and check out
Right here.
any one of his podcasts, any
should
one of
be
his
what you hear.
350.
Okay, and we'll go to. Okay, so he's addressing some group, probably saying inane comments, and he comes out, and now he comes out, and he is going to address the subject of the shooting and of the 3 children and the 3 school personnel. This is how he begins it.
Biden's husband.
Let's do it again.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm Dr. Joe Biden's husband. And I ate Jenny's ice cream, chocolate chip. I came down because I heard there was chocolate chip ice cream. By the way, I have a whole refrigerator full upstairs. Think I'm kidding. No.
This is his introduction to telling the American people that 3 9-year-olds and 3 school personnel were slaughtered in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, one of the symptoms, if you go to the DSM-5 of dementia, is highly inappropriate conduct. You get much more highly inappropriate conduct than that. I mean, well, yesterday, the day before, he thought he was in China when he was in Canada. And when he was in Cambodia, he thought he was in Colombia. And he actually thought that the prime minister of Cambodia, he referred to him as the prime minister of Colombia. This happens every day. It's mostly suppressed. If you go on, you know where you can get it? I mean, even Fox suppresses most of it. You can get it, you go to Australian television, and for some reason, one of the networks in Australia really has it in for them. And they seem to do a show, and it seems like almost every night they pick up 2 or 3 of these things, and they treat it as comedy. Well, they can treat it as comedy. It's not their country. This is the guy with his finger near the button. He doesn't know that he's in Cambodia, thinks he's in Colombia. And he comes out and he fools around and jokes around about ice cream. What he's going to tell you about a massive national tragedy. And he's of sound mind. And what's wrong? Where's the patriots that come along and say, we've got to say something about this because the good of the country is involved. I know Harris. Nobody wants Harris. I know that. But we'll deal with Harris when we have to deal with Harris. This guy is missing major brain cells.
I know his name, but
that's very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. And if you want to know why we have such division, it's stoked by him. Every time he says that we're a systemically racist country, he supports the theory that we're an evil country. Now, it's possible he doesn't know what systemically means, because I know him for 35 years, and he's one of the dumbest people I ever met. Now he's demented as well as dumb. I'm not sure he'd spell it correctly. Systemically, Joe, means just about everybody. It's distinguished from individual. There are individual, like if we say a police department is systemically corrupt, we're saying it's corrupt from top to bottom. We would say it suffers from individual corruption if there are pockets of corruption here and here and here and here. But if it's systemically corrupt, you can almost say almost everybody is. So what you're saying about us, your people, I think, although you got paid more by the Chinese, what you're saying about our people is that the vast majority of us are racist. Racists are evil people. I don't even know why you want to be our president. I don't want you to be, so we can make a deal. And look at this, the New York City Teachers Union, which, I have known for years as a communist organization. The New York City Teachers Union is sponsoring this weekend a virtual workshop on fighting against the harmful effects of whiteness in our lives. That's a quote from the program. It's a quote.
You're kidding.
No, here, New York. I'm reading Richard Calder's column 2 days ago from the New York Post. The New York City Teachers Union is sponsoring a virtual workshop on fighting against the quotation marks harmful effects of whiteness in our lives, close quote. It's going to be next Monday, 4 to 6. It's going to be hosted by a Queens-based psychotherapy consultant and self-proclaimed diversity, equity, and inclusion leader, Eric Sandoval, who's going to tell us about how evil it is to be white.
This is Monday.
I think it's Monday. Yeah.
I think we're in New York that day, Mayor.
I think we should go.
I think we have some time on the schedule.
I think we might risk.
How would that go
I
if you
think
show?
we might risk my losing my temper. I think we might have a real problem with that.
How was it when you were mayor? Did you work with the teachers union? Did you attempt to work with the teachers union? Talk
Of
about.
course, I did. I would offer them a package that I think is very revealing about who and what they are. I would say to them, I want to give you different raises. I want to distinguish between the great teachers. I want to give them big raises. The much better than average teachers, I want to give them big raises. The somewhat above average teacher, I'll give them a little better than average raise. The average teachers will give the average raise. And if you fall down a certain level, we're not going to give you any raise, and maybe we'll kick you out. So why not? Why not? Randy Weingarten was the president of the union. She's now the national president. You see her, come on, yelling and screaming, about every 2 weeks. And she would say, well, we have to protect everyone. I said, yeah, but by doing that, you're not protecting the good ones. It isn't fair. If we say there are a lot of good teachers, shouldn't they be distinguished from the ones that aren't and paid more money? Isn't that how you make a quality organization? If you engage in the fiction that everybody's the same, you get mediocre to worse results. Suppose you paid every baseball player the same amount of money. You paid a guy who's got over 60 home runs like Judge the same amount of money as a guy batting 190. You're not going to go very far as a baseball team. Or a manufacturing business. There are people that are terrific at what they do, people who are average, people who shouldn't be doing what they're doing. They should do something else. Teachers fall into those categories like everyone else. But the teachers union revolves itself around protecting the worst and screwing the best, because the best have to work for the same amount of money as the worst. See why they're communists? See where the idea comes from? It comes from Karl Marx. And that union was taken over by communists way back in the 20s and 30s when it was formed. So when I tell you it's a communist union, I am not speaking. I've studied the history of communism. When I was in the Reagan administration, I investigated communism. I helped to establish the FISA court to go after communist spies. I know their thinking, and I've read all their books. On the Democrat side, they don't read. So they just say stupidly ignorant things like AOC has no idea why we would want to ban TikTok. Because it's run by the Chinese communists, you idiot. That's why. And they're our enemies, and they'd like to take us over. And they killed probably 1 million of us with COVID-19, which comes from China, and they did nothing about it. So if you can't focus on the fact that the Chinese are our enemies, what good are you?
Mayor, so we have a few guests tonight. Well, we have a large studio audience here in person, and we have a few folks that want to come on and ask you a few questions. How's that sound?
I love it. I love it.
So our first guest tonight, his name is Julio Gonzalez, and he is known by his friends as, and you can ask him about this, the most interesting man in tax. I thought they were saying the most interesting man in Texas for a while.
I think that's a takeoff on the most interesting man in the world, right?
That's right.
Right. And
Oh,
the most
really?
interesting man in tax.
That's fascinating. How did you
How did you get that one?
get that title?
Well, I have the largest tax firm in the country. We work with over 20,000 accounting firms to help their clients with tax credits. And but I had a question for you, Mayor.
Yep.
I think
Get a
one
little
of,
close to you.
I think one of the best things you did in New York was you took a deficit and you turned it into a surplus. And that's something we just don't see in today's government at our federal government level, a lot of the states as well. And I just wonder what they could learn from you to turn this massive deficit that continues to grow.
You can begin by making a sort of rough analysis of how much money you must be wasting. You know, you can't, you don't have the time to do like a 2-year audit and figure it out. But I'll give you an example, right? The budget of New York City is a couple $1 million more than the budget of the state of Florida. The state of Florida has more than 2 times the population of the city of New York. The state of New York's budget, which also contributes to New York City, so it has that support, is 2.25 times the budget of Florida. So you begin with total assurance that we're wasting money, because when you look at the level of services, I mean, you could argue the services are better in Florida. So we're not getting value for spending roughly 3 times more. Now, if you know a little like I do about the history of New York City and spent 8 years investigating it, you know what the reason is, and it's simple: it's corruption. We have a significant number of people that work for the city and the state of New York who are thieves. They take kickbacks and bribes, and things cost 2 and 3 times more, even more than California. So we just did a contract last year. Hochul did, our new witless governor, and she paid $600 million for a COVID test that we probably don't need, with a company not in New York. The company had just concluded the same contract with California for the exact same number of vaccines, or not vaccines, tests. That was 325. We paid 600 million. Now, is it a coincidence that guy made a $300,000 contribution to her campaign just at that time? Of course, it's not. Of course not. That's exactly the differential. He built the campaign contribution into the profit that he made, and he took the same profit as California, right? But he created her campaign contribution that way. But you paid for it. And that goes on all over the place. People wonder why did Cuomo and Murphy and all these Democrats stick all the old people in the nursing homes? Because the nursing homes wanted the COVID money. And the nursing homes are their biggest contributors. The nursing home industry was the biggest contributor to the Cuomo campaign. So again, I say I don't believe in coincidences, because it made sense for him to be stuffing old people into places that had all old people there who were going to spread the disease, and also not even going there and inspecting to see if they had done the proper organization. So the reason that the first thing I did, I just imposed a 20% cut on everybody in New York City government. I said, all my commissioners, you're going to have 20% less. You go cut. You go figure out where the stealing is. I can give you a few examples. Our New York City hospital system, we got rid of 12,000 people. They were taking care of beds that no longer existed. The hospital system used to be real big. The hospital workers were hired not because they're hospital workers, but as patronage for the Democratic congressman, because congressmen don't have much patronage. So the Democrat mayor of New York made a deal with the Democrat congressman. I'll give you 4 or 5 jobs, but then you're going to vote the way I want you to vote. It's a bribe. So now that became like His relatives got jobs, the congressman. Congressman was making a fortune over those jobs. I mean, we've had cases in which the Bronx borough president was getting kickbacks from everybody. He would get kickbacks, he'd get half the raise that he was able to effectuate for his employees. So if you work for him and he got your $10,000 raise, you had to give him $5,000. You know how he got turned in? One guy realized that he was paying taxes on $10,000, but he only got $5,000, so he almost ended up with nothing. and the borough president, he was paying taxes on the money he was giving away because he couldn't put on the tax return. You know, I got 10,000, but I gave 5,000 away to the borough president, so he would pay the $2,500 in tax. The guy himself had to pay $5,000 in tax on the $10,000 that he got, but he didn't get $10,000. He just got $5,000, so he had no raise. And he goes to the borough president and says, "Can you adjust it?" And the greedy, you know what, says no. And he comes in and he tells us. And we got a big case and we put him in jail. But this is what New York is made up of. This is what Democrat politics is made up of. They are in power for too long, and they are as corrupt as Boss Tweed. And nobody wants to believe it, but all you have to do as an intelligent person is look at the budget and see that the budget of the state of New York is 230 billion. And the budget of the state of Florida is less than 100 billion. And you got more people in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with that 130 billion more? Is New York state 130 billion times nicer than Florida? I doubt it.
No.
And thank you for the question, Julio. Before we let you go, as a nationally recognized expert in the in taxes, what's like a piece of advice? I'm sure you get paid a lot of money for this, but what is a piece of advice for our viewers when it comes to taxes? Something you can offer them. You know, we want our viewers to be kind of in the know, right? We like that we have guests. What can you share with our audience tonight when it comes to taxes?
I would just share with them that a lot of people have switched since COVID to working from home. And there's a lot of deductions, tax deductions allowed by the government, the federal government, the state government to deduct a lot of the expenses from working from home that a lot of people miss. So I think that's number one, that they could look at those things and hopefully save a little bit.
Wow. Well, there's some really good advice there. The mayor has a question.
Well, you and me, we
Oh.
work. We do a lot of work from home.
Wow. I'm so glad I asked that question. And I really hope, what is this? Here we are. I guess you could call this work, right? Well, thank you, Julio. Thank you for joining us. That's Julio.
Yeah.
So we're gonna bring in our next guest.
Your firm is in case people want help.
Oh yeah, plug. Yeah, give us
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Engineer Tax Services. So engineertaxservices.com. We put daily.
Engineer.
Yeah.
Engineer. Wow.
We put up daily tax tips to help all the small business firms work with their accounts and just pay a little bit less.
Are you in one state or are you?
No, we're in all states, 55th and Park.
So your people have to know the tax laws
in Park, Mayor.
of 50 states.
That's right.
They have to know the tax laws of the 50 states as well as, yeah.
Engineertaxservices.com.
All right.
Is that it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Julio. So, Mayor, we're going to bring in our next guest here. We have one more for the evening, potentially two. We'll keep it moving here. Who we have here is Dr. Tony Rufo.
Tony, how are you?
Thank you, doctor. Good to see you again.
Mayor, you go ahead.
No.
No, Mayor.
I get too much time with the
You
man.
remind me so much of my family, Mr. Mayor, because I'm Italian and you're Italian, and you act just such like an Italian.
Thank you.
We're like brothers and sisters.
Well,
Our
I am.
family. I know you
All
are.
sides of my family. My grandparents were all born in Italy.
And my grandparents were too.
Yeah.
Reggio Calabria in Crotone.
Well, mine were from Naples and Florence.
There you go. Wow, Florence. Mr. Mayor, this isn't a question. It's basically just some comments I wish you would comment on. First of all, I'm originally from Erie, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
right across the state. My dad was a state trooper. I'm friends with Mike Kelly, Congressman Mike Kelly.
Yeah.
And I too worked in the Reagan administration when you did.
Oh, wow.
And for Congressman Jerry Solomon.
Mhm.
Remember Jerry?
Yeah, sure.
Good man.
I know Kelly too.
Good Kelly.
Really
Right,
good.
right. And I remember the day that 9/11 occurred, a colleague, physician of mine, came the next day and he was somber. And I said, "What's wrong, Frank?" He said, "My brother, Tony Foti, was a fireman and he was killed 9/11." And you could tell the somberness, but he was in 9/11 when you were there, and it was a terrible thing, but you did a great job. Mr.
Thank you.
Mayor, you did a great job, really, and you still are, and we appreciate
Thank you.
that. We are so much behind you. No matter all the crap you take, we are behind you, and we push back. All of us are pushing back. You know, every little one of us, if we push back just a little, if
Yeah,
we
yeah,
all
that's
push
the way
back,
to look at it. I mean, it is a question of we've got more of them. It just means we got to organize better.
but they fall easy. If you confront them,
Well,
Mayor, they
that's true.
fall
That's
easy.
because they're lying.
They're lying, right? Anywhere, Mr. Mayor. So, as a physician, I've dealt a lot with the youth, and what you said tonight was excellent. I think what I've seen in my 35 years of family practice is the deficiencies in this culture right now is number one, God. God is not in our youth. We have our generation took them to soccer games instead of to church or to mass,
Right.
and they did not develop a spirituality or a moral fiber that we did when we were growing up. And I think that's one thing that lacks in this culture, and that's why we have so many problems. The other thing is drugs. Now, drugs have always been a problem, but now we're promoting marijuana as a recreational drug, and 36 states have that. And that causes a lot of psychiatric issues and psychologic issues. And then the family unit I've seen. And
But we got to convince people that marijuana was harmless, right? My co-host on Sunday on Uncovered is a doctor, and she is very strong on it is not harmless. It affects the brain.
Mayor, we've been lied to. The bottom line is there's a company or Patrick Kennedy, he started an organization called Smart About Marijuana. And marijuana causes psychosis. It increases violent crime in the areas. It increases opiate deaths. It just increases for the youth between 12 and 19. It affects their brain forever. And it's stronger now.
So we have a mayor in New York who is so excited that we've legalized marijuana because we're going to build our economy of the future in New York on drugs, selling drugs, and on casino gambling. That's going to be the future of New York, both of which corrupt people. And think about it: our finances will be contingent on selling a lot of marijuana.
And
Because
addiction.
if you bring down the sale of marijuana, the city gets very little tax revenue. But if marijuana goes through the roof, it gets big tax revenue. Now they're not going to get anything. I'll tell you why. He's put up 3 recreational marijuana shops, and there are 1,200 illegal ones, wiping them out,
Right. The black
and
market.
shooting people who come in,
Right.
and putting fentanyl in. We had 3 ladies. You know, they're probably taken in by this isn't so serious a drug, and so they take the marijuana, dead right away, because I don't know if it's done purposely or it's done accidentally or whatever, or but they will lace it with fentanyl.
What they don't understand is in our day, marijuana was as strong as the grass that's outside. Today, which was 1% THC. Today, it's 20% if you smoke it, and if you dab it, it's 99%.
Tell me what dab is.
Dabbing is breaking up the oil in the marijuana and then basically sniffing that and
Yeah,
using
like
it.
they did with crack, the way they created
Exactly.
crack cocaine, but right.
Now, the interesting thing is, Mayor, they paid us as physicians $30 a visit to try to get people to quit smoking. So why
Cigarettes.
cigarettes? So why are they trying to get people to quit smoking, but promoting people to start smoking marijuana and quit smoking tobacco? That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's follow the money, I think, like you said. But anyway, Mayor, those are my comments as a physician.
Well, I'm
I
going to
think.
show you something because you mentioned God, and I was going to cover this. I was going to cover this because I think this is a very big story. The Wall Street Journal and the University of Chicago did a major poll, and it has some very disturbing results. Ted Should I put them up? Should I put it up this way so that?
Sure. And we want to thank Dr. Tony Rufo for joining us. And we hope to have you.
I want him to
Oh,
comment.
stick around and comment on this. Yes.
He sort of brought this up.
Hold it up.
So now,
Let's zoom in on this.
why don't you read them, Ted? Because I have to read them backwards here.
Sure.
So this is a poll asking people. I'll give you the questions. Values. So let's do it generally first. Percent who say these values are very important to them. I'll give you the first one. Patriotism. In 1998, 70% of Americans said patriotism was very important to them. Now it's 38%. I mean, it fell through the roof. Boom. How about religion, what we were talking about? In 1998, 62% of Americans said that religion was very important to them. Now it's only 39%. And in 1998, 59% of Americans said having children is important to them. And in 2023, it's down to 30%. So I hope you can see that. I mean, those are devastating. That means that not even a third of America thinks it's very important to have children. Barely a third thinks religion and patriotism are important. And the only thing they believe is important that's gone up, money.
Yeah.
And it's one of the only things that Democrat and Republicans agree on. Now, I have to say, again, this is generally a Democrat-driven poll. The numbers are not nearly as bad for the Republicans in the poll. So let's take religion. So religion is 23% of Democrats believe religion has value, 29% of independents, but 59% of Republicans.
Right.
I'm sorry, I had it wrong. That was patriotism. 23% of Democrats believe patriotism is important. 29% of independents, 59% of Republicans. Then you go to religion, roughly the same thing. 27% of Democrats believe religion is very, very important. 38% believe that of the independents believe it's important, and 53% of Republicans. I was actually surprised, there was only 53% of Republicans.
And those are the ones, Mayor, that we need to energize to vote, because 85% of evangelicals will vote for Republicans,
Yeah.
but only 60% of them vote. So we need to energize that group to get them to vote for Republicans.
And look at the very disturbing numbers about children. It affects Republicans too. Having children, 26% of Democrats think it's a value, 20% of independents, and 38% of Republicans. So even Republicans can't get a majority to the importance of having children. That's the way we populate the race, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we populate America. And money was the only one that went up to 45%, have been down at 30%.
And before Lyndon Baines Johnson, a certain population had 78% of their fathers living in the family.
Yeah, Black people.
After that, now 78% don't have a father.
That has a lot to do with it. But I'll tell you why this is very disturbing, doctor, ladies and gentlemen. America. There is no America if we don't share the value of patriotism. America is not a country like other countries. We're not a country built on a common ethnicity. We're not Italian. We're not French. We're not German. We're not Chinese. We're not Indian. We're not da-da-da-da. We're not built on a religion like Muslim or like Israel, Jewish, or there used to be Christian and Catholic countries. Actually, in Africa, there still are some countries that denominate themselves as Christian and Catholic. We're a country made up of every religion, every race, every ethnic group. What holds us together? So they asked Abraham Lincoln that once, and he gave the best definition: shared values. What holds us together is there are certain values that are paramount. And no matter what our politics, we agree on those values. And mostly we're talking about what emerges from the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. You could sum that all up as patriotism. Well, that's only 23% of Democrats now. And one of the Democrats that was questioned said, "Oh, I consider patriotism to be Republican propaganda." Loving your country is Republican propaganda? Where does that come from? I know where it comes from. It comes from 50 years of unrelenting Marxist influence in our educational system.
Absolutely.
Started with the big Ivy League schools. You know, remember Buckley's first book, I think, was God and Man at Yale. And William Buckley wrote about how they threw God out of Yale. And by the time, it started with Yale. And my son Andrew went to Duke because he wanted to go to a more conservative place. He didn't want to go to school in the Northeast because he thought he'd be fighting with all the teachers. And Duke was back in the 2004, 2005, 2006. I'm sure it's much worse now. He was fighting with all the professors. All the professors were crazy, wacky, left wing.
Look what happened to Stanford. A judge came to talk to a classroom and they started to yell at him. And one student says, "I hope someone rapes your daughter." And nothing was done to him. He wasn't kicked out. He wasn't admonished. He was.
Well, that's the anger now that, I mean, like 30 years ago, the communist and Marxist philosophy was being taught. But the anger wasn't as great. Now the anger,
Right.
I mean, so people watch, for example, the whole big movement to take down statues, right? Or the whole big movement to burn flags or to kneel for the national anthem. And they think of it as kind of isolated incidents. It's not. It's a very well thought out program to get us to hate our country. And they succeed. They're getting our kids to hate our country.
Mhm.
That's why patriotism is down to 23%. They don't love America anymore. And George Soros invests millions in that because he doesn't love America. He thinks American nationalism is very, very dangerous. He says if America remains nationalistic, it'll become, a Nazi country. Meanwhile, he wants it to be a communist country. Not much difference. So
Wow.
this, before a tall order for the next president to reestablish what we would call the really our way of life, because this is what made us great. Our patriotism meant we were brave and relentless in fighting for our independence, fighting the Civil War to keep us together, dying to free Europe twice, liberating Eastern Europe. I don't know if you're not patriotic, what brings you together? And then I remember on September 11, my firefighters and police officers, 80% of them were religious. I went to so many funerals, religious funerals. I thought I was a priest. I thought I woke up one morning and said, "Gee, I really did become a priest." Then I realized, well, no, I got married. I mean, I can't be a priest. But I mean, it's really true. I mean, they've beaten this out of America.
It's just so disappointing, Mayor. It's just so upsetting. Well, Dr. Tony Rufo, we want to thank you for spending
Thank
time
you.
with us.
Thank you, Mayor.
We hope to have you back.
Tony, what kind of doctor are you?
Family doctor.
God bless you.
And we have two more guests we want to get to, Mayor. We'll make it quick, but they both have very
Please.
strong questions, and we love soccer time. Our next guest is Kate DeHaan. She is a real estate consultant here in South Florida. And Kate has a question for you, Mayor. Kate, why don't you go ahead and get in the hot seat here? We like to call it the hot seat.
It's not really. Don't,
Oh, it's
don't get people nervous.
Yes, I know.
Welcome, Kate.
Thank
The mayor always likes to ask first, where are you from and how did you get here to South Florida?
I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. First of all, very nice to meet you.
Annapolis?
Sure. Yes,
Home
Annapolis.
of the Naval Academy.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful naval.
And I got here, did pre-med in college and decided I didn't want to be a doctor. So I got on 95 and drove straight down to where the sunshine and warmth is. So
So when did you come here?
2005.
Okay, so you're a veteran. I mean, you're a veteran
Basically a resident. here.
compared to the new surge of people.
Oh,
Right?
yes.
They're
I've been
coming
here for a
down right now. They're probably got
Yeah.
moving trucks on 95, right? So tell us what is so wonderful about being here.
And what? Yeah. Tell us that, and then let us
And
know
you're
what's
a
on your
real estate
mind.
agent. You probably, you have an idea of how the real estate is moving and the value, you know, the value of the real estate has gone up tremendously, right?
I'm actually not too super busy with real estate because there's not a lot of inventory right now, as you know.
And there's not a lot of inventory because people what are not selling, huh?
Right, because there's nowhere for them to move.
So they want to. There's no way. I see.
There's nowhere
They
for them to
are
go,
where
basically they want to
okay.
sell, but there's nowhere.
They
for them to
are
go.
where everybody wants to be. So where are they going to go?
Right, right, exactly. No one wants to move away.
But often you have people. There's a certain mobility. They want to, a little bigger house or a little better neighborhood, or you don't have that going on like within Florida. Like somebody has a 3-bedroom house and they like a 4-bedroom house.
Not so much of that. I have a lot of people moving into rentals.
Right.
For the time being, just because they don't want to pay the crazy prices to buy, right?
So the values have gone way up.
Right,
And
especially
everybody
down
wants to
in
make
West
it
Palm.
wants to make a killing.
Downtown West Palm.
Yes, that is insane right now. I mean, not New York prices, not yet.
Yeah.
Really.
Give me an idea. Suppose you wanted to get a high quality 3-bedroom.
In the Strand.
What I don't know the Strand, but is that a high quality?
The Strand. I'm naming a complex in West Palm.
Which one is that? That big beautiful new building? Where
It's relatively new, I think, isn't it? It's not. Oh, it's not. All right, someone who's local, tell us the Bristol.
Oh, the
Uh,
Bristol.
Yeah, a 3-bedroom in the Bristol.
The Bristol's like $1 million.
Yes, there's the last one I looked in the Bristol. was about-
Face when I said the Strand.
It wasn't 24 million. You think you're getting a mansion?
Are we talking about for rentals or to purchase? You're talking about just
Well, okay. Well, that's good purchase. 24 million. So tell me what you got for 24 million.
24 million gets you a turnkey unit. The one in the Bristol was a turnkey unit. Not a full penthouse, which I think is crazy.
24 million.
You can't get a full.
How many bedrooms and bathrooms?
It must be a
Start
lot.
with that.
It was 5 bedrooms.
That's big, right?
It was beautiful, but I mean, it definitely
24 million. You
but
think of it.
everyone wants to check
What do you think of a mansion?
right. But there is, the whole marina to park your big yacht right there. So
And then so they'll give me another building that isn't like off the charts, but still very expensive.
okay,
Rental,
I don't do-
rental.
Okay, for rentals. Okay, so
Let's say it's
been-
a 3 or 4 bedroom. Rental.
okay. Well, most of the rentals I've been doing lately are around 2-bedroom.
Right.
And those go for about $5,000.
Okay.
Oh,
And
take that.
But they're-
take the folding chairs.
but they're not, I mean, these
Want
are
to-
small, kind of not a lot of upgrade, just kind of really basic what you're talking about. I mean, something would be probably around, maybe 1,200, maybe about
What would that be?
5 years ago, and maybe 25. No, just 2 small bedrooms, just like a little kitchen and stuff. I mean, it would have been probably about a little less than 2,000,
So much from 2,000 to 5,000.
about. Yeah. So
Wow.
Selling doesn't happen because nobody wants to sell.
right. I mean, people do want to sell, but just as I was saying, that those
To go where?
2-bedroom.
They're renting them.
apartments,
Okay.
They want to rent a big nice house,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's not. There's nothing.
And there are no houses there.
Right. So
Wow.
that's why I'm doing event planning right now.
Well, am I right when I said that? I said that very quickly. I'm not really sure. Are there no houses to rent?
Not really. No,
No.
not really.
Wow.
So you can't. There are no houses available for sale, and there are no houses available to rent.
Basically, unless everyone has a price. So if you
Yeah.
have the cash and you want to offer, and someone says, you know what, I wasn't planning on moving, but that sounds about
Well,
right.
people put it on the market for ridiculous prices to see if they can get it.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, and sometimes they do.
Yeah, sometimes, yes. People that want to move, out of maybe California. So
That's incredible.
no one really.
Yeah, if
Well-
you want to move from California and you want to move here, what would you advise somebody to do? Or from New York to here? How would they negotiate, where they go and
Well,
they do it?
So I actually moved out to Napa in California for 3 years. Not necessarily for the wine, more for the food, but
That's
yeah,
funny.
right.
Funny.
There's amazing. But once they locked down the entire state and then the fires ripped through, I said, that's it. I need to get out of here. It was very hard to get back here
They let you?
for multiple reasons. They didn't let me leave originally when I had a Florida license.
It was like East Germany.
Right. And I have a Florida
It's,
license, but I wasn't essential. Right. So as soon as I was able to find a U-Haul, which you can barely get because no one's
they-
going back west, you know, the ashes are raining down from the fire. Everything's locked down. I loaded what I could and I drove straight across. But I had to rent something sight
Did
on.
they call the governor Herr Newsom yet? Herr Newsom, you will have your cards, please. You will not
Well-
be allowed out without your card.
Well-
We will check you.
Well, Mayor, I know. So we are in soccer time. We have one more
You
guest we
will
want to
be
get
locked
to,
in.
but I know Kate had a question for you
You will
before.
be locked
Oh,
in.
good.
Kate, you had a question? Did you want to ask before we let you go and move on to our last guest? Yeah.
Talk about, you know, traveling now that traveling is allowed. I haven't been back to New York because I heard the crime is just insane there.
Actually, it isn't insane.
Oh, it's not.
No,
What about for women?
it's still not insane.
Okay.
Crime in New York is up, but I'm going to tell you, and you'll be very surprised. The city in New York with the most crime is Rochester, not New York. You have anywhere from 2 to 5 times more crime in the following cities: St. Louis, Chicago, Philadelphia. Could be Tallahassee. I'd have to check Tallahassee. Atlanta, Georgia is forget it. I mean, you walk around the corner, you get shot. Higher murder rates than New York. New York is somewhere around 30. Now, here's what happened in New York. New York went down to nothing. We were the safest large city in America. So we went down from 2,200 murders. When I handed it over to Bloomberg, it was at 500 to 600. Bloomberg took it down to 300. So now it's gone up to 600. That is shocking to New Yorkers because they're spoiled isn't the right word. They're used to a safe city. And the city has gotten much more dangerous than it was 3 or 4 years ago. And they're reacting to that. But when you look at the actual percentages of crimes, we're somewhere in the middle. And that doesn't mean that we're not dangerous. We're not as dangerous as some other places.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, American cities governed by Democrats, particularly with Soros purchased DAs, of which there are about minimum 40, are all very high crime. And New York is one of those, maybe toward the middle. There are some a little better, some a little worse. And then we have shocking crimes. The crimes now, although many less than back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, the crimes now are bolder. Like back then, people didn't, 12 people didn't go into a store, wipe it out, and the police just watched it. But what they're doing is they're mimicking what they saw in 2020. The criminals were taught how to behave when they watched the riots. They saw 80 riots in which nobody got arrested for stealing things. The cops were there as if they were a Greek chorus, watching them, never arresting them. And the few that got arrested have all been released. And now they're being given money.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They're being paid millions.
Wow.
This is all orchestrated by the party of slavery, the Democrat Party. It's become like it used to be when it started at the very top, not the regular Democrats. They're wonderful people, but at the very top, it's an evil political party, like it was when it was the party of slavery. I mean, it does have an evil history. I mean, I don't understand how you change names and you don't change that name. So they're changing the name of the Audubon Society because he was against emancipation of the slaves. They were only slaves because of the Democrat Party. They fought the war. They're the party that fought the war. Lincoln got elected as the first Republican president because he was for emancipation. His opponents were the Democrats who carried on 8 decades of slavery. I mean, we changed names like Jefferson and Madison, and they had like 20 or 30 slaves. The Democratic Party initiated slavery, fought for it, and helped to create a war that killed more Americans than any other war. And then after it, they continued it with Jim Crow, lynchings. That was all in the South. And every single one of them was a Democrat, including Joe's best friend, who was the head of the Ku Klux Klan in in West Virginia.
It's crazy.
And Joe himself is a damn racist. Things like, I'm not going to send my kids to school in the jungle. Or Obama was the first clean black person to run for mayor. Like, first one to
President.
walk.
Yeah, that's wild. Absolutely
Black-
insane.
First one that took a bath.
Yeah, too bad. Well, we want to thank our guest this evening, Kate. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for asking a question. And on that note, Mayor, we have one more guest we want to bring on. Thank you, Kate. So we have next a very special guest. A very special guest. We have with us, he's coming on the set right now. Where is he? Come on and join us here. Take a seat. Before we introduce you, we want you on the set. We have Chase Becker. He is the publisher of the Metropolitan Magazine. So we want to be very nice to him if we want to get on that cover, Mayor.
All right.
Well, Chase, thank you for joining us this evening. As always, let us know where you're from and how you got here to South.
And then tell us
Florida.
about the magazine too.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a New Yorker. I enjoyed watch you work. I moved to New York in 1969. I came from Europe and enjoyed what America had to offer. And New York City was sparkling. It was the most beautiful place in the world. And there was some crime in it, and the mayor here knocked it out. No one has ever done what he's done, and we all respect him and look up to him for all his achievements. There's been mayors that come and go, and this Mayor Rudy Giuliani is the best, and there's nobody better than him. And I have lots of respect. I'm so honored to be
How
here.
much?
with you.
How much is it? How much are we paying him?
The check cleared. The check cleared. Thank you for that,
Okay,
Chase.
so my question is, mayors have come and gone, Republicans, Democrats. Will we ever see a Republican, a conservative mayor or governor in New York again? Was it that corrupt?
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? I don't know. I mean, I think I'd be foolish if I could see the future that well. I mean, or pretend that I can. I do. I mean, first of all, it would be easier to see a Republican governor than mayor because the numbers aren't as daunting. It's either 6 or 7 to 1 Democrat in the city. And they've become, and we've lost a lot of what you would call the conservative or moderate Democrats, of which there were many. The only way I got elected was I got a big Democratic vote because there weren't enough Republicans to elect me. Now those Democrats have become more radical. Now the state is like 3-2. And the state came pretty close to electing a Republican governor this time, 5% away. I can see the state of New York next election possibly having a Republican governor if things continue that bad. I mean, if we were back with the electorate that we had when I ran in 93, we could probably elect a Republican mayor next time out. But it's so tilted in favor of Democrats. And remember, the Republicans are leaving. So
They are leaving.
and when I was mayor,
Half the crowd here.
when I was mayor, Republicans were moving in. So population went up when I was mayor by about 400,000. And I would say probably 3/4 of them were Republicans.
There are a lot of Democrats and there are a lot of Republicans and conservative in Long Island, upstate New York.
Yeah, that's why the state is doable
The state is doable. That's why for governor.
for governor.
So as far as mayor is concerned, New York City
Very hard. I'd never say no.
Democrat.
And sometimes, politics is very strange. Miracles can really happen. But if you were to be just logical about it, the best way to say it is New York State is a doable political victory. New York City would require some major thing happening and an intervention by God. But I got that. I got that when I ran. I mean, nobody thought I was going to win.
So what happened with Biden and Trump? We all know the majority did not vote for Biden for president. This was like
I
something.
mean, just because only 5 people were showing up for his, and 70,000 were showing up for Trump.
Will be going back to New York and electing. That's why it's going to be difficult to get a Republican mayor in there
They cheat.
because they cheat.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits of live streaming. We don't have to worry about the censorship. I mean, unless YouTube throws us off. Yeah, they cheated. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But no way that goofball got 85 million votes. No way. Mercury aren't that stupid.
Well, a
He
lot
was,
of
he was running in a basement. You know, during the election, he said wacko things too. He once said that he remembered watching Franklin Roosevelt read the comic books on television. Well, there was no television when Franklin Roosevelt died. It didn't come along for 3 more years. And it was Fiorello LaGuardia who read the comic books, not Franklin Roosevelt. And he didn't do it on television, he did it on radio. So where does he have this image in his head of the guy on television? Because he has a
a
delusion.
big liar.
Well, he always been a big liar, and now he's delusional.
Yes.
Now he's delusional. I mean, imagine. I mean, one of the symptoms in the DSM-5 of dementia is to say inappropriate things. So that thing that I played before, where people have just died, and you come out and tell jokes about ice cream, is a sign of dementia. It shows you don't really know where you are.
Exactly. You didn't
You
know
don't
what
know
he was
where-
doing.
You don't know the situation
No
that you're
subject.
in. And I'm sure they got him nervous about it, not to put too much emphasis on it, because they didn't want to put too much emphasis on the fact that the shooter was transgender.
Mm.
So you look at the New York Times today. You got to go down to like something like paragraph 28
Mm.
to find out that the shooter is transgender. They describe the shooter as having emotional issues all throughout.
Obviously.
And then if you last to the last 2 paragraphs, which almost nobody does, you find out the person was transgender. And the sheriff said, when asked, did that have something to do with it? He said, well, you can't count it out. So that's a significant news item left out because they're transgender. I mean, in an almost insane
Another
way.
question for you. You're a New Yorker. You have a place here in Florida, Palm Beach. You enjoy coming here. How do you feel when you go to New York and come here? As far as the atmosphere, the people, and how you're being treated. Do you enjoy
Well, I get
treatment
treated
here?
I do get treated really, really well in New York, even though, they're Democrats, and I get treated really well. I'll have Ted answer that
I
question
can
because
attest to that, Chase.
Ted is new to New York. This is his first experience living in New York. He's been with me.
Michigan, right?
He's been with me since November, and we travel around the city, quite a bit.
But quite a bit.
So you tell him
Whether
what
it's,
you have done.
the construction workers in Midtown or these dyed-in-the-wool liberals on the Upper East Side, right? You just look at them and you can tell they will come up to the mayor and just beg him to come back, and they will say, "Mayor, we want you back." And it's not about partisan politics. It's not Republican or Democrat. It's about being a leader, right? They recognize him for what he did, and the results speak for themselves. So from construction workers to, every cab driver, no question, there hasn't been one cab driver, and I'm in the cabs all the time, that haven't just sung his praises. To these guys on the Upper East Side, right? All over the city. And look, it wouldn't be New York if you didn't get, once in a while a middle finger. But I mean, you need, if you're not getting that, right, Mayor, then you're not doing your job.
Yeah,
So
I get a couple, and I just answer them back. I've never.
You do. Yeah. How do you answer?
We have a good response. Tell them the response.
When they say something stupid, I say, well, you must be a product of the New York City school system.
They'll use some
Obviously, you took transgender 301 and not history.
It's amazing. It's he's got a great response.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, you spent 5 weeks learning how to chop your body parts off, but not that Columbus discovered America.
And one more point, and the mayor hates this, but I have to say one more point, right? Here's the mayor of a big city, New York City, right? We go to places like East Palestine, Ohio. Couldn't be I mean, it's all America, but very different environment than the city of New York, and they love him, right? They approach him. They know him in a small town in Ohio. Now, that says something about this man, right? When he's the mayor of New York City coming to a small town in Ohio, and they love him and they respect him. I mean,
Absolutely.
it speaks and it's all over the world. It's all over the world. So, Mayor Rudy
Thank you.
Giuliani.
But before you go, Chase, tell us about Metropolitan Magazine. I love the
Well,
name.
Metropolitan Magazine has been around since the late 1800s.
Oh,
Happy to pick it up and have wonderful covers, celebrities. I'm looking forward to having you on the cover.
I would
as
love
well.
it. So where is it published, and how often?
Okay, so we publish in New York. We distribute in New York, Long Island. We also distribute all throughout New York City. We have a distribution here in Palm Beach, so you'll be able to pick it up here and view it. So we're north and south,
Hmm. And you come out once.
once a month.
website?
No,
Do you have a website?
yes.
Okay.
Metropolitanmagazine.com.
Wow. Straightforward, huh? So we're gonna put that website up on the screen. And Chase, we've been talking, and he's been so good. We're working on something. We want to make this work with the mayor. So we want all of our viewers to know that Mr. Chase Backer has been so supportive of the cause, and
Absolutely.
he's someone we'd like to see all of you support.
it's
So
the
if you
first-
want to do something, one way you can support the movement is by subscribing to Metropolitan
That's the
Magazine.
first thing that comes up, the Metropolitan Magazine, right?
Yes.
The dedicated staff strives each month to produce a magazine of exceptional quality, one that creates community pride. And here it is, Metropolitan Magazine, and the online version. Do you
Yes, we're digital as well.
do you subscribe to that?
Yes.
So
Is that-
people would you can subscribe online. So if you don't,
Absolutely.
yeah.
We print, so we would like to have everyone have a
of
copy.
course
We
you
put it
want
out
the
to
print. And I've held
we're
these
gonna
magazines.
put-
It's a shame. I might
Oh,
have
I
it in
like that. You know how much I like that. When are you going to get me back on Epoch Times? I mean, I'm dying. I'm going crazy. 3 weeks in a row, I haven't got my Epoch Times.
Yeah, we gotta call them.
But I am online for them. I'd love to get your magazine.
Absolutely.
We'll have
So-
to.
and we'll get you some hard copies as well.
We have some there. I showed you. I think it was Joe
Oh,
Namath.
you got a corn.
Which
beef?
one did you show me?
We had John
Corned
Smith
beef.
on the cover. We had Leonardo DiCaprio with Sarah Jessica Parker,
Oh,
Kimberly
Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Guilfoyle.
We had
my friend.
we
Kimberly.
put
Hey, that corned beef looks great.
yeah,
I mean, that must have been for St. Patrick's Day, right? We did corned beef for St. Patrick's Day.
Well, we want to thank Chase for joining us this evening and being a part of our audience. Thank you, Chase.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Chase.
you for having me here.
Looks like an interesting magazine.
And Mayor, we are now 33 minutes.
Your
into
feet
soccer
take you
time.
everywhere. It's a soccer time. Any goals? Any goals scored?
We're 33 minutes past the hour. So,
All right. Well, we're gonna say goodnight.
so
We're gonna say goodnight to everybody. We're gonna ask them to please go to rudygiulianics.com, which is our website, and do a couple of things there. Give us some comments on this show. Tell us what you'd like us to cover, and also take a look at the podcast. They're for free. You just hit subscribe. You go look at them. We have what 320 or so, and you'll see they're all quite historical. They have to do with the pandemic in real time, the Biden crimes, and let me know about them. And the most recent recent one, of course, goes through the horrendous Bragg phony frame up case, and I think analyzes it from a legal point of view better than well, at least as well as anybody else. And you'll get it. You'll understand it. I think very, very, very succinctly, so you can argue with your friends intelligently. So, and tomorrow we'll be back on WABC Radio at 3:00, and then we'll be back here tomorrow night. And tomorrow night we'll take some calls. So don't think we're giving up on our calls. We'll put some time aside for you to call in.
starting tomorrow, we'll get back to calls.
Yeah, we'll
That's right,
put-
Mayor.
we'll put Ted back to work.
We've had some strong audiences. We want to
We
thank
have-
everyone
we
for
have
joining.
had some excellent guests.
And we'll keep everyone informed on future opportunities for live in studio audiences. We try to do that everywhere we go. And we want to thank everyone, of course. So, Mayor, why don't you send everybody off on this very busy
Well,
evening.
given the poll that I had the misfortune of having to read to you, about patriotism and religion. If you are inclined, I would now, say a prayer for America that we can return to our way of life that was the greatest in the world, and that these people who want to destroy us are defeated. Just ask for God's help. I think it's an appropriate thing to ask for. Got to be that God on this one is on our side, since they're godless. So ask for His help, and also thank Him for being in America. We'll see you tomorrow.